Have you guys ever heard of a company called SERCO? Well, it might be the biggest company that you have never heard of. Everyone knows about the private prison industry, the transportation industry, and government agencies. But what if I told you that there was just one company that oversaw almost every facet of all of these sectors? Yep, that's SERCO, the mother of all multinational corporations. SERCO is a $1.5 billion services company based in Hook, North Hampshire in the United Kingdom, whose motto is bringing services to life. So, what the hell does that actually mean? Well, according to their website, SERCO improves the quality and efficiency of essential services that matter to millions of people around the world. The work we do for national and local governments involves us with the most important areas of public service, including health, education, transport, science, and defense. Now, I know it still sounds very vague about what they actually do, but more importantly is how many industries SERCO actually oversees across the entire planet. Since governments from around the world outsource to SERCO, the massive corporation has its tentacles in 16 countries worldwide. They cash in on detention. SERCO runs 7 immigration centers and has a presence on every military base in Australia. They're also the largest operator of private prisons in the UK. SERCO also directs airplanes. They are the largest air traffic controllers in the world, with 54 towers in the US alone. The company also supplies air traffic control in Iraq and the United Arab Emirates. SERCO also moves people on the ground, from Scotland ferries to Dubai metros. But the company not only manages public transport everywhere, but also operates speed track cameras and creates the software for monitoring traffic across London. But don't worry, SERCO's looking out for the kids, guys. They currently have contracts to run every state school in Bradford, England. But they haven't forgotten about Grandma and Grandpa. They're privatizing community centers too. If you haven't figured it out yet, SERCO is essentially the Swiss Army knife of corporations. SERCO plays doctor too. Private hospitals are a big industry under the umbrella company. And SERCO has started to acquire hospitals in Australia and England. SERCO is so unbelievably powerful that they even control time. Yep, SERCO has friends in such high places, they have been contracted to set Greenwich Mean Time, or GMT. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Do you think that things like running border patrol and protecting nuclear arsenals should be run by a government body or a private multinational? Well, I'm sure you can guess what I'm getting at next. SERCO does both. Not only do they look over the country's entire nuclear arsenal, they also run the UK's ballistic missile defense system. In fact, their primary purpose of being stationed here in the United States is to supply defense and intelligence services across the nation. Check out their promo video for the U.S. government.
For the Department of Homeland Security, we manage over 62 million active records, helping to keep our nation secure.
Think of it as an integrated system that helps the right person make the right decision at the right time. For the intelligence community, we provide planning, training, program support, and project execution. And the rest, it's classified.
The rest is classified? Guys, we already think you're shady. Is it really necessary to tell us that you have even more secrets? But thanks for the disclaimer. So what branches of the government does SERCO specifically provide services to? Well, the U.S. Army, U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, the Ministry of Ontario, U.S. Navy, U.S. Air Force, U.S. Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Marine Corps, Federal Retirement Thrift Investment Board, U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, U.S. Department of State, the intelligence community. Whew, let me catch my breath. I just wanted to establish the extent of their reach. But wait, there's more. SERCO is so passionately committed to the U.S. that they're also working with the government to fight cyber terrorism, and they remain passionately committed to the American government's mission. Check it out.
I like to say, we don't have to look hard to find the best and brightest. They find us.
We are passionate about the future of our nation, and we embrace our government's mission as our mission.
We are.
We are.
We are.
We are.
We are.
Your mission, our passion.
We are the company that runs the world. But don't worry, they're passionate about swallowing up the world industry by industry, government by government. Since 1994, they've grown by over 1,200%, and they continue to acquire more contracts and services every day. So how does it happen that a multinational corporation can run things such as the time and the safeguarding of nuclear weapons? Well, about 85% of SERCO's employees are also ex-public servants, so they have the know-how and networking to keep that revolving door going. So why don't we know more about SERCO? Well, that's just the problem, is that this corporation has way too much power and way too much control. There's no doubt that we live in a corporatocracy. The corporate coup d'etat has already taken over. The question is, how are we going to fight it?
It's a small world. It's a small world. It's a small world. Living in one small world. It's a small world. It's all one. It's a small world. Living in one small world. It's a small world.
The riot by asylum seekers at the Immigration Detention Centre on Christmas Island a couple of weeks ago raised questions about how detainees were being handled. The Minister for Immigration, Chris Evans, said he was comfortable with the way the detention centre was being managed. But who is actually managing it? Well, not the Department of Immigration. Earlier this year, the Rudd government outsourced the operation of Christmas Island and other detention centres to a British company with an interesting track record.
This is the SERCO Group. They run all 7 immigration detention centres in Australia, but they do lots more. In fact, they're probably the biggest company you've never heard of. Governments all around the world outsource to SERCO. They run half of London's traffic lights, all of Dublin's, and in Ontario, Canada, they test you for your driver's licence. SERCO are also the largest air traffic controllers in the world. They've got 54 towers in the US, and they control Baghdad's air traffic. They even maintain the RAF squadron the Queen flies on. All over the planet, SERCO are moving people, from metros in Dubai to buses in Adelaide. And they're good at stopping people from moving too. SERCO will soon be the largest operator of private prisons in the UK, and they're very efficient at it. In one prison, they increase capacity by 20% simply by putting beds in the toilets. In another SERCO prison, a 14-year-old hanged himself after being assaulted by SERCO guards, the UK's youngest ever death in custody. But don't think SERCO aren't good with kids. In Bradford, they run all the state schools in the district. SERCO is the model of a modern multinational, and that's why they're the right company to keep us safe. They've been running the UK's ballistic missile defence system ever since it was outsourced 40 years ago. In fact, they look after Britain's entire nuclear arsenal, from creation to decommissioning. But wait, there's more. SERCO are so good at running things, they even run time itself. That's right, SERCO have the contract for setting Greenwich Mean Time. And SERCO just keep getting bigger. Since 1994, they've grown by 1,200%. How have they been so successful? CEO Chris Hyman puts his success with SERCO down to listening to God. Now, you might think things like nuclear arsenals and border protection are best handled by the government, but that's not a problem for SERCO because about 85% of their workforce are ex-public servants, so they have all the training and connections necessary to handle big government contracts. In Australia, SERCO have a presence on every military base, run every immigration detention centre, 2 prisons, cross-country trains like the Indian Pacific and the GAN, and they're bidding on more contracts right now, including one to run prisons across New South Wales. So, even if you don't know their name, chances are you're caught in their web. SERCO, bringing service to life.
Today, the federal government faces unparalleled challenges. Making our nation more secure, our armed forces more formidable, and our government more responsive to its citizens are at the forefront of the government's mission-critical needs. The federal government is being required to respond to new mandates, expand mission scopes, and re-engineer underlying business processes with increasingly finite resources. One company offers the expertise to meet these challenges, underpinned with its rapid response, innovative solutions, and ability to deliver outcomes that matter. We are SERCO, a provider of professional, technology, and management services, and we are proud to serve the federal government. SERCO advises, designs, integrates, and delivers solutions that transform how clients achieve their missions. Whether the mission is securing America's borders, managing critical transportation infrastructure, enhancing intelligence, helping federal agencies share critical data, or supporting personnel functions, we are supporting clients' missions that directly impact key national interests. SERCO has earned the trust of our civilian, military, and intelligence customers through a proven track record of achievement on mission-critical assignments. SERCO is poised to respond to the highest priorities of the federal government with integrated teams, deep government knowledge, and proven technologies. In the area of national security, SERCO applies expertise in border and port security, records management, and cybersecurity to protect the homeland. SERCO supports global missions of the intelligence community with program management, acquisition support, and signal intelligence. With a comprehensive offering in IT and professional services, SERCO designs and delivers IT solutions that make government more efficient, modernize legacy systems, and enable information to be shared across agencies. IT services include systems design and engineering, enterprise architecture, information security, software development, network solutions, and systems integration. In the area of human capital management, SERCO helps increase efficiency, productivity, and quality of service with its full range of business process re-engineering services. From military personnel support services to care for wounded warriors, to workforce planning, cutting-edge training and learning systems, SERCO's human capital management services blend high-tech with high-touch. With our expertise in engineering and logistics, SERCO helps maintain critical systems, supplies, and equipment in the highest state of operational readiness. Our efforts include economic cost analysis, configuration management, supply chain and maintenance support, and transportation management. We support those who keep the nation's skies safe, its coasts secure, and its military forces equipped for any mission. We are SERCO. When time is of the essence and failure is not an option, SERCO can be trusted to deliver. SERCO, bringing service to life.
The Christmas Island insider has told how untrained teenagers were used as guards during detention centre riots. The woman claims staff as young as 17 were thrust onto the front line. The former SERCO staffer spoke exclusively to Jeff Parry.
Linda, not her real name, has been haunted by her time working at the Christmas Island Detention Centre. Caught up in this. Linda was employed by SERCO, the British company that runs all Australia's detention centres. She wasn't employed as a guard, but when riots broke out in March, she was told to put on a guard's blue shirt.
They sent out admin and kitchen staff to make the numbers look as though we had more staff on the floor, so we were put into the blue shirts and sent down onto the front line. Office staff, receptionists, finance staff, payroll staff.
Did they have any experience in security?
No.
And Linda, who has put her allegations in a sworn affidavit, says some of those sent to confront rioters were under 18.
I knew of at least 3 that were under 18 that were sent out there. A couple of the kitchen hands I knew were 19 that I recognised.
Linda says untrained staff were put in danger. You have no doubt about that, that staff were in danger?
Oh, yes, we were in danger. We were evacuated several times. Buildings were set on fire.
The rioting was only brought under control when 150 Australian Federal Police took over the camp and rounded up the troublemakers. SERCO says it knows nothing of Linda's allegations, but would treat them seriously. Linda's story is only being told now because she's defied a confidentiality agreement all SERCO employees must sign. SERCO has just been awarded a $4.3 billion contract to run the Fiona Stanley Hospital. Those same agreements will also be a condition of employment for working here.
How can we run a public hospital, a good public hospital, where staff are hamstrung, they can't talk about issues?
In tomorrow's West Australian newspaper, Linda details how young boys slept in the same accommodation as adult men and some guards racially taunted asylum seekers. Jeff Parry, 7 News.
Fornicating
I don't know how many people have heard of SERCO, but SERCO is the beast. And why do I say SERCO is the beast? Well, other than the obvious thing, Serpent Company, it's just an abbreviation of Serpent Company, SERCO. It is run by a Pentecostal Indian called Chris Hyman. Now, the Dravidic class of India, and this guy, of course, is a half-blood Indian, half-blood Englishman. These people are very, very powerful people in the world scale today because they give all their allegiance to Queen Elizabeth. And SERCO does security for Queen Elizabeth. But of course, we've been looking for a company that might be like the super corporation. And I think of T. West heavily in making this video, because he talks about how many African leaders are sold out. Well, one of the people they're sold out to is SERCO. SERCO is operating in all continents, and SERCO is specialising in some very strange fields. Prisons, schools, military, and information technology as the forefronts. But then as well, SERCO has some very, very strange occupations where in Ontario it runs all driver training and the licensing of licenses. Now you see, the purpose of this company is, of course, it's a British monarchy company. It's from the London Cabal, and it is the new super company. Think of the Omen movie, and there was the Thorn Corporation. Well, Thorn Corporation is SERCO. And how SERCO is going to operate, it's already just had the most amazing rise for any company in a time when other companies are going downhill, because of course security and flight control are two of its main businesses. Now it is operating with a lot of military as well throughout the world, and it teaches logistics. And this is why it's reminding me of T. West talking about how they sell an African country military hardware, but then if anything goes wrong, like in this country rebels against the monarchy, as it were, in the USA, of course they have ability to shut their systems down. And this is where SERCO, of course, is at the forefront. SERCO is just MI6 Incorporated, and you'll find all the shareholders would be the main lords, knights of the realm, and big Indian money, and of course the big old houses of the USA that would be involved in this as well. Firstly, it's just a worldwide conglomerate, and it's obviously been created by other big vested interests as a super-style octopus company, because this company can control other corporations. Other corporations are going to be in fear of SERCO, and SERCO's abilities with IT and military and its connections. It truly is the world's serpent company here growing in our midst, and we're just starting to hear of it, and I'm sure there's already been protests in Australia against this company. I mean, it's nothing new, this company, to Australia or to people in Britain probably, and different places around the world are aware. Now, I was watching this thing from the Philippines where the SERCO people were having a big pantomime, and you should have seen it. It was just so corporate America, but with a corporate SERCO. And it really was a very strange pantomime, and it really reminded me of something like what the Thorn Corporation from the Omen movie might be like. Let's say the way it can operate like an octopus. Now, the other thing, it's run by a Pentecostal. Now, pentagram, straight away we know, and of course, Pentecostal's big thing is British Israel, and belief that the monarchy is the David line. So that fits in very, very nicely. So we have a company run by mad British Israelites, and it's operating in every continent, and it's operating with everybody's military. It's running schools, prisons, hospitals. I mean, this place and these people can just do so much damage to anybody they want to so easy. because they're inside the system like a snake. No wonder it's going to be called SERCO, Serpent Company.
Okay, I'm here on SERCO's website. Looks like they got some little drones right here. But what I wanted to do is just add something in on there, just on the catalog that YouTube has about SERCO already. If you don't know who SERCO is, just go up on your YouTube search and just type in SERCO, and there's a lot of good videos. But what I wanted to show you guys was this. You go to About Us, History, and here on the history page it talks about the history. Most people say this is a British or United Kingdom company, but if you look back in their history, their roots go way back into America a long time ago. Right here it says, in 1897, Marconi's successful development of the transatlantic radio communications and his drive to expand his capability resulted in the of an American communications company, Radio Corporation of America. Radio Corporation of America assumed all the assets of Marconi Wireless Company in America so that the technology development of radio communications for the United States Armed Forces would come under the auspice of the United States government via wholly owned American entity. Now what's interesting about this is that I don't know if you guys have heard of Nikola Tesla before, but Nikola Tesla's invention of the radio was stolen by Marconi, and till this day the award for excellence in radio is called the Marconi, and really all he did was send the first transatlantic radio communication. He sent the S, Morse code, across the Atlantic, and he got credited for building the radio. And it wasn't until 1943, the year of Nikola Tesla's death, that U.S. Supreme Court ruled that Tesla, not Marconi, actually invented the radio. Just wanted to point that out. And the other thing I wanted to point out to you guys was, what's RCA's famous invention? You guys should know this one. The television, right? Well, that's what you think. The television was credited to RCA for, they were the ones inventing the television, but really they stole that invention too from Philo Farnsworth. And it took him about 10 years to gain royalties on the television that RCA was producing. So I thought that was very interesting in their past. Right here it says, RCA's success in America soon turned to the market on the other side of the Atlantic. On September 10th, 1929, RCA set up its first United Kingdom subsidiary, where this is traditionally considered to be the start of SERCO. Well, the reason they would do that is their shady past with, the stolen radio and the stolen television, and they want to clear that out from their past. But it wasn't till where is it? It's like it might have been 1988 or 1987 that SERCO changed, or RCA changed their name to SERCO, and then they set up shop in the United Kingdom, and then that's how they get the British thing. And it's also a management buyout, but they have a really troubling past. And also in '69, this is how they got into the military. In 1969, RCA organized itself into operational divisions. One of these divisions was focused on service, and it came through about the RCA Service Division was formed, the part of the company that would eventually be purchased by its management and renamed SERCO.
only be one devil, so one of us must go.
SERCO Group. Buy it. Goodbye.
Is that it?
Oh, there's nothing more to say. It's so boring. SERCO Group. It's big. It's making money, which is good, isn't it? It's British. It's so dull. All right. Professional. Must be professional. SERCO Group is a business services company. No, I've never heard of it either. Its business is to provide services for other businesses that are too lazy or incompetent to provide those services themselves. Now, these businesses are usually referred to as governments, and there seem to be quite a lot of them, which is why SERCO has an unfeasibly large number of fingers in an unfeasibly large number of pies. A bit like Bernard Matthews going into business with Sweeney Todd. One minute SERCO's running Merseyrail and Liverpool, the next it's supplying Peckham Rolexes for our light-fingered friends. Ah, I do see the connection there, but boring. Has anyone got any smelling salts? Oh, I know. But what's the connection between speed cameras, prisons, ballistic missile early warning systems and Walsall's local education authority? Well, it's almost as if SERCO's been going around the world hoovering up all the jobs no one else wants. Like Yossa Hughes in Boys from the Black Stuff. Gives a job. Go ahead, gives a job. It even runs Manchester's Aquatics Centre, not to mention driving test examination centres for the province of Ontario. I mean, how random is that? Anyway, whatever SERCO's up to, it seems to be working. In 2007, revenues topped 2.8 billion, up more than 10% on 2006, and pre-tax profits were up more than 17% to 123 million. Even after all this recent economic bedwetting, SERCO is still tootling along nicely at around 450p. So it seems dullness is no bar to success. Analysts are certainly frothing at the mouth for SERCO.
Is there at this very moment a global secret brotherhood plotting to control the world? Or even worse, is the shocking plan already in motion? Have devastating weapons already been positioned around the world to cause catastrophic results? Can it be stopped?
Hello, I'm Patrick McNee. The Illuminati is said to be a global secret society that has been operating for centuries. A hidden brotherhood that includes some of the world's most influential people, people of all races and religions that hold top positions in government, churches, business, education, science, medicine, military, financial, and charitable institutions. A secret fraternity whose sole purpose is to take over control of the entire world's resources, finances, and its people. If such a powerful secret society does exist, it represents the ultimate threat to the free world. In fact, it means that right now there is actually no free world at all.
Just a year ago, the Supreme Court across the street from this very site recognized that corporations are people too. They said in a historic ruling, democracy is not limited to people with bodies. The pursuit of happiness is a collective idea that was enshrined in our very first document, being able to pursue together profit. That's how the Supreme Court sees the world. That's why we're asking you to join our movement. Corporations, embodied people who want to become corporations, all join together. The law is basically encouraging everyone to form a corporation. everyone can have the opportunities that a corporation affords you. You create a virtual self that will remove you from your responsibility and afford for the risks that you take to be paid for by somebody else. If you commit a crime, let's say fraud or negligent homicide, it's the corporation that's at fault, not you. No matter your race, your creed, your gender, your sexual orientation, it doesn't matter. As a corporation, we're all the same. Right here, right in front of the Capitol and in front of the U.S. Supreme Court, we're going to make history on January 21st, 2011. That day is going to be a day when corporations speak up and say, this building doesn't just belong to a few big corporations. It should belong to every corporation.
If I were the devil, if I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have 1/3 of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree, thee. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing. Paul Harvey. Good day.
We have been able to contact a number of people who were inside the banks doing due diligence work as contractors, who all told us that they were never contacted by the Justice Department.
Look, if I contact people who have first-hand knowledge of fraud, I'm going to have to follow up on it. We have found that with enough security, we can keep whistleblowers from getting in the front door.
But it shouldn't be so easy for journalists to go out and find whistleblowers that at this point, 4 years after the meltdown, that haven't been contacted by...
Look at my suit. I'm an attorney. I have to think about my future. If I prosecute the most powerful people in the world, what will be left of my career? Nothing. Nada. So think before you ask these questions.
You gave a speech before the New York Bar Association, and in that speech you made a reference to losing sleep at night, worrying about what a lawsuit might result in. Is that really the job of a prosecutor, to worry about anything other than simply pursuing justice?
I think about a lot of things, including justice. Justice is one of the many things that I have to consider. Another thing I have to consider is my career. I am a well-respected attorney, and I have a stellar career ahead of me if I play my cards right and I use the revolving door in Washington properly. If I go after bankers, I'm going to end up like Bill Black, marginalized, an assistant professor at some small university somewhere. That is just not satisfactory given how many asses I have kissed and how many Americans I have screwed out of justice.
That was very disturbing to me. Very disturbing. That was never raised.
That's your question? Okay, can I answer? Do I believe that Social Security should take no part in deficit reduction negotiations? Is that the question? And the answer is this. Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid account for about half of federal spending. Just hold on. About half of federal spending. And if we are ultimately, not just this year, but over the coming decades, going to be able to balance our budget and not spend more than we take in, we have to make sure that the promises we make in Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare are promises we can keep. And there are various ways of doing that. One is we could raise taxes on people. That's not the way. Corporations are people, my friend. We can raise taxes on. Of course they are. Everything corporations earn ultimately goes to people. So, where do you think it goes? What? Whose pockets? Whose pockets? People's pockets. Okay, human beings, my friend. So number one, you can raise taxes. You can raise taxes. That's not the approach that I would take. Number two, you can make sure that the promises we make are promises that we can keep. And in my view, the areas that you have to consider are higher income people receiving less rapid growth in their benefits and their inflators. You don't agree with that? You want to give wealthier people bigger portion? That's your right. I think we should have what's known as progressive indexing. I think we also should consider a higher retirement age. Those are things that should be...
This anniversary of Citizens United will become the Christmas of the future. Mm-hmm. It will be our biggest holiday. As one by one American citizens marry their corporate lovers, we will be erotically involved with, the gross national product and quarterly earnings, and as our empire continues to expand, we will expand our family and force these marriages on people around the world. Amen.
The glories like of Jessica Lynch. One star, stay the course. Yeah. Stay the course. They were stories which are a cinch and a clinch. What we are. When you endorse. Stay the course. Use the force. Stay the course. Show no remorse.
Reproduction, weapons of destruction. Swear to heaven they did 9/11. In their sectors won't allow inspectors. Only ours, bullets turn to flowers. We are seeking those who did the leaking. They provide a haven to Al-Qaeda. There's a mission, there's a coalition. We're not failing, we are prevailing. No trial left.
Oh, the office is oval and roval, and its sphere is a clear second rate. So a line incessant about the Fertile Crescent can't be taught or even cakewalk straight. From the Sunni triangle tangle to the Pentagon's dangle of bait. In the spiral of violence, in the cone of silence, can't escape that the shape of our state is a circle of lies, and they draw it where
is all of our successes. We are hearing, where's the profiteering? Didn't out or didn't know about her. There's no plan to occupy Iran. Just remember back home in September, no child left behind.
The circle of lies, and they draw it well. Never compromise, never ever tell. Hear the founders' cries as their child dies. In the circle of lies.
Small World Radio, 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 Small World.